is the way that seeks to eternal life, narrow, and few that find it. And broad is the way that leads to destruction, and many are on it. As I always say, that God's ways are narrow, narrow. In other words, it's restrictive, it's structured, it's confined, it's not easy, and it's not my way. It's God's way. So when I always come to the umbrella of morality moves, it's under God's morality that we move. And Paul said that in Christ I move and have my being. I always love that scripture. He said, in Christ I move and have my being. So it's not in myself, but it's in Christ that you move and have your being. Not in myself, but it's in Christ that I move and have my being. So I'm reminded of that when I think about morality moves. I'm definitely reminded of that. I'm definitely reminded of that when I think about morality moves. So when I think of the Olympics and how hard it is and how the commitment that is that they have to be there, it is a sacrifice, and it's definitely a narrow way. And I always appreciate watching the Olympics and knowing how hard they work just to get that one-time trophy. I think God has called us to work hard in His kingdom, and to do the things that are right, even if it's not convenient. They're never right; is never convenient. There's never a good time to do what's right. There's never a good time, but God has given us breath, and He's given us the opportunity to do right, and give us the strength to do it. And I thank God for that. And as I come before you today, I'm reminded of how we keep moving forward in adversity and putting God first. Putting God first. And as I talk with you, I am surrounded by a whole bunch of paperwork, and trying to figure out this black screen, which I'm still trying to figure out. But that we're reminded that there were people that moved in morality because they saw a problem and they got in it. They saw a problem and they definitely got in it. Definitely saw a problem, got in it. And I say the same thing with us. One thing that I talk about is the main thing I talk about is the sexualization of popular music. And it's not just me saying it. There's many reports coming out that there's an onslaught of more sexually explicit music targeted to the youth. Sexually explicit music targeted to the youth. And this is something as Christians we should be involved in. And if I can remind you, Christians have always been involved in social issues or in things that moved in society, had a betterment of society. And if I can remind you of the Salvation Army or the Red Cross, or Harvard was once a missionary school before it was a college. There's a reason why our money says in God we trust, or we hold you swear on the Bible. The foundations, the forefathers was of God. And even in the I believe it's the Declaration, just in our in all of our constitutions and all of our laws, God is the God's nature and God's laws are in there. So for us to deny that now is just really disrespectful to the Lord. So I'm just reminded that we need to definitely move definitely move in morality, definitely move towards morality. Um, and I brought up the last time of Diane Nash. I think I brought up the time of Diane Nash, and she was an amazing person. Um, Diane Nash, she was the coordinator of the civil rights movement during the spring of 1961. She was the coordinator of 1961, and she helped sustain the freedom rides, by coordinating the students' efforts to continue the rides into Mississippi and Selma. And she was somebody, I spoke of her last time. She was someone who did move in morality, who made a difference, who made sure that segregation during her time would not continue. And I bring her up, and I brought up last time because it cost her something. It cost her education. It cost him something. And I'm reminded that when you will stand up for what's right, it will cost you something. It will cost you something. Um, it will definitely cost you something. And sometimes you wonder, okay, what is it going to cost me? Sometimes it might cost you everything. But she was right there with John Lewis. She was right there with John Lewis, and she had she developed. She was a part of a nonviolent movement, and it was to desegregate the lunch counters, and just stop segregation overall. Stop segregation overall. Um, and again, like I said, there were college students during that time, and she was part of this movement because she felt that doing nothing was no longer an option. Doing nothing is no longer an option. And when you think of that, doing nothing's no longer an option, you really have nothing to lose. And because of her acts, she was able to help desegregate the lunch counters, which John Lewis. They went to jail, and she really put her life on the line. And people asked her, said, "Weren't you nervous? Weren't you scared when you're sitting behind the lunch counters and people could say something or they could hurt you?" She goes, "Yeah, I was very scared." But she realized that she'd rather face that fear than actually do nothing. Actually do nothing. And she said they just got tired of the disrespect of what segregation costs. And I say to us Christians, are we tired of what does it take for Christians? Because this is a Christian radio station, so I always appeal out to the Christians. And again, like I say, morality moves, and whose morality? The Lord's morality, what God calls right and wrong. Do we get tired enough to actually do something? Or do we get tired enough to complain, to go home and complain and just have business as usual? What does your tiredness move you towards? And did God allow you to see that, experience that, to actually change that instead of always looking for somebody else to do something? So that's where I always challenge us, and I come in and I talk about that because of that one action. This was college students. These were young people. And again, young people were all over. I will always be remind us that young people were all over the civil rights movement. They were the ones who filled the jails because they had the time. If you look at the Selma riots, it were mostly young people involved, and because they had the time, they weren't working. So young people was always involved. So I say to us, what situation or something that really grieves you will you change? Would it be the sexually explicit musics? Would it be the sexually explicit cosmetology, all these TV shows? Where is it that Christians are shining their light? And like I always said, for Christians to show up to shine your light, God says that we are the salt and light. What does that mean? Well, salt and light. Oh my goodness. and of the world. And Martin Luther King reminded us that we're the thermostat. We regulate the temperature of society. I always like that part. We are the thermostat. We regulate the temperature of society, right? We're not the thermometer. We don't read it. And essentially, we're becoming more like reading it. Oh, this is going on. Oh, this is going on. Okay, well, what's on channel 7? Well, we move on to the next thing. We keep reading it instead of changing it. And Martin Luther King, he gave his life changing it. Coretta Scott King, she gave her life trying to change it. Martin Luther King would tell her to stay home. She goes, I'm right here with you. She signed up for the movement, and they gave everything to change it. Because of what they allowed to change, we're able to embrace all those freedoms that they gave their life for, their time for, their life for. And like I said, we know our beginning, birthday. We know but we don't know our ending, and all we can control is the dash. And what are you doing with the dash that God has given us? I'm so reminded of that. What are we giving with the breath, with the movement, with the mind, with all your agilities, with all your capacities? Are you just giving that to leisure? Are you just giving that to the waste of just wasting time? God's going to call us for that. That's why I am here. I am reminded that I have an expiration date. You see sometimes when you go to the scanner, you're trying to get the expiration code, like, okay, where's this expiration? Where's this code? Or the expiration date on the ketchup. Well, we all got one. We just can't see it. We all got an expiration date. Only the Lord can see that. Only the Lord can see that expiration date. We can't see it. Only the Lord can. Only the Lord can see that expiration date. So as wisdom is, God says you got to count your days. Count your days. Now, society and the devil wants you to waste your days, acting like you got 1,000 years to live. God said you don't even know about tomorrow. Like I come on here because I'm a Christian, so I'm going to always talk from the framework, which is only one, of God's word, the basic instruction before leaving earth, the Bible. There's only one framework, right? There's only one framework. So as I think of that, what is it that God has called you to do? God, if the Christians would stand up more, oh my goodness, this world wouldn't be as crazy, And I remember the preacher Tony Evans used to always say, listen, the devil gonna always try to block you. If you're in a game, expect opposition, right? Expect the obstacles to come. Right? That's life. You expect that watching a game. You're just gonna stand and scoring all the time without being challenged. However, when we're challenged, we want to sit in the corner, right? When God says, I can do all things through Christ who give me strength. When God says, I can do all things through Christ who gives us strength, right? So when oppositions come, like David, he ran to the Goliath. He said, what is this infidel talking against the Lord? Because he said, greater is he that's in us than he that's in the world. So I tell the Christians, stand up. The school system coming up, show up and show out, right? Go into City Hall, know what type of legislations. And I always say, I'm going to get me a little broom pin. As you go, you sweep. You sweep with your broom. Like every person knows, before you leave the house, you keep, not before you always do the dishes. The bed's made, right? Make my bed, make sure that stuff's on the floor. You're going to pick it up, like you tell your kids. So why are we doing this in society? Huh? I don't know why we're not doing this in society. If you see something cleaned up, you got to go clean it up. I think I told you the story one time when I saw a very sexually explicit magazine in Shaw's. I think it was in Randolph and Shaw's. And I said, oh, while I'm on my way making my purchase, I said, let me stop and talk to the manager. I said, can you remove this magazine? It's by, the kids and such. They're like, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't know it was out there. And they moved it. Like, oh, wow. Because I came through and the Lord let me see that, I made a decision. Now, it wasn't for me. I didn't have no kids around me at the time, but all of us should be trying to clean this area. Even just now with the Olympics. I love me some Olympics. The 4 years for that one moment in time. That one moment in time. That is the prize down here, the Olympics, all across the world. Say you're the best in the world. Say the best in the world. And it's really hard to say the best in the world because a lot of people probably didn't get the chance to go. But the best in the world. And that one time they had the Last Supper where they were degrading the Last Supper of Christ. And it was very blatant with other sexually explicit just a lot of sexually explicit content. I said, oh my, is this what we come to in the Olympics? In the Olympics of the Olympics, this is what we're coming to. And this was happens when good people continue to say nothing. I think the Speaker of the House spoke about that and said how appalling that was. That was directly right at the Christians. I think it was men dressed in women's clothing and drag during the Last Supper. How sad is that? How sad is that? How degrading that is. And but that is when Christians continue to be silent, that more of an onslaught of negative things continues to happen. We say things in love, same things in respect, but you say things. You got to say things. When you don't say things, it is Martin Luther King says that your silence confirms what's going on, and we don't want that. We don't want that. So when I think about that, I'm reminded. One thing I always come to remind you is that we need to continue to speak out. If God has us here, we have a responsibility. And when you see something, like you used to say, right? See something, say something. See something, say something. Easier said than done, I know, because say something can come with consequences. But look at the consequences for not saying nothing. And it's going to continue. There's no such thing as the fire that contains itself. It's going to keep on going throughout every area of life. And I have seen that. Every area of life. It's going to continue. And when we think that it's not going to affect you in your home, we're all just mistaken. Just mistaken. And when I think of Diane Nash, who moved immorality, when she saw the bombing of those three little girls during the 1960s, she said that was her line in the sand. They were all the line in the sand. Say we need to stop. We need to stop this. We cannot continue as business as usual. And is there something that you see that you said this cannot be. This cannot be business as usual. Mine is the music lyrics. I'm not sure. And music is a gift of God. God allowed us to have all our senses. I don't know how people would not believe in God, because how can you understand hearing or sight or touch? You can't explain that. You can't explain the voices or the voices, the words. You can't see words coming out my mouth, but I'm talking or hearing. That makes no sense. Alexander Graham Bell, right? He knew that the voice could carry over a line. He knew the waves. You can't see that, but yet he was able to get someone talking on the waves. They thought he was crazy. Like, you cannot get somebody talking on the wire. That makes no sense. Talking on the wire. But he kept at it. He kept at it until he was able to get that someone saying something on the phone. So when we look at that, we look at vision. How can there not be a God? How can that be God? No two fingerprints are alike. That makes no two fingerprints are alike. And there's also something called the design theory, uh, that you can see through this world that there was a designer. Even even the sun, how close it is. If it was any little bit further away, we would freeze, a little bit closer, we'd burn to death. There's just like a design there. So when you sit back and look, there has to be a God. So if there's God in terms of sciences, it has to be God in terms of morality. In terms of morality. Um, and in terms of morality, it's not what you feel, it's what God calls right and wrong. But when I think of what I'm doing, it is the music lyrics and the sexualization of popular music. There was an article titled "The Sexualization of Popular Music," and it stated that in 2016, it was reported that music is the preferred media outlet of teens. This is the title called "The Sexualization of Popular Music." So when you see, and you see it, like this music is getting a little too much. Yep, they did a study on it. The sexualization of popular music. That's the title of the article. And it was reported in 2016 that music is the preferred media outlet of teens. Oh, we know that. Every teen that's why they target the teens, and everyone had those. You grow up with your when you're most vulnerable, most, with music. And 66% listen to music daily. That was 2016. And now with the progression of the internet and everything like that, it must be much higher. And it said many popular music lyrics become sexualized and high level of sexual content. That was back in 2016. What is that? 8 years ago. I just bring that to say is that it's just been increasingly getting more sexually explicit. Um, and there was another article done, this was in 2023, by Gary Hamilton from USA Today, Gary Hamilton, in February 2023, where he titled "Why R&B music is more explicit than ever today. It's complicated. Why is R&B music uh, explicit more than ever?" And he said it's complicated today. So I just reported from 2016 to now 2023. And then a couple years back, I know I reported from the American Pediatrics Association back in 2009. They reported the sexually explicit sexualization of girls and through music. So I'm going from 2009 from the American Pediatrics Association to 2016, the sexualization of popular music, to 2023 with why R&B music is more sexually explicit than ever. Today, it's complicated. So essentially, I'm just painting a narrative and a picture of the continuation of degradation of music towards the young people. Even if you go back to BET, and I know they started off well, BET, Black Entertainment Music, which was with Johnson, the first Black billionaire, but it was his wife together, Sheila Johnson, the Johnsons, who started Black Entertainment Television, well, the cable network. But they start off with the music videos. And they've been sold it to Viacom. I don't know who has it, but it's no longer Black owned anymore. Hasn't been Black owned for many, many years. Um, and if you, I don't know who saw the BET Awards 2024. I don't know who saw those BET Awards, but just recently, I think it was like last month, it was extremely um, vulgar, very, very sexualized. Hmm, okay. All right. H- Hello? Hello?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, Pastor. So sorry about that. I'm not sure what happened. Okay. I'll continue. Sorry about that.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. My computer, sorry about that. My computer just died, not sure why. But as I was saying that the BET Awards, they were very sexually explicit, very sexually explicit, and it was just twerking. It was very sexually explicit clothing, and the theme. There were some good moments. I didn't watch it. I just saw it on the words on the internet. Um, it was very sad to see. I think we all grew up. I remember, think the Jacksons, and I grew up during that time, and it wasn't like that before. The Four Tops, I mean, it was not like that before. So it was very sexually explicit. A lot of twerking, and I cannot believe how that has not stopped. I'm not sure why that has continued, but what twerking is, I'd have to look it up what that is. But that is women gyrating. I mean, it looks like it really looks like a strip place. Strip place. That I don't know what strip place looks like, but looks really sad. And that was a theme. And it wasn't just me, but it was also um, young African American women saying, we are so embarrassed by this. This is not how women are supposed to be portrayed. And it was just a conscious effort to continue showing this type of music, this type of dancing. And it just wasn't one thing, it was like an onslaught of that continued dance. And it wasn't just me, it was many people talking how they were disappointed with BET and demonstrating that type of dance to the young people. And that's what we're getting at, the young children that we're trying to get at. And what are we saying to the youth? And I was happy to see how young women and older women were rebuking that, saying that's degrading. This is not what we want. This is not what we want. This is not what we think is appropriate. And they commented on the internet how it's been a progression of this degradation of twerking and all this other stuff. And I brought up last time when you can actually see me up in the radio station, um, the Essence Music Awards when more twerking, this is more twerking and all that other foolishness, and no one is and people are calling that art. The younger people think that no, that's just art. That's just, older people gotta get over that. So as I just painted out to you, and again, I do apologize for the black screen. I think my computer update was the wrong version. I think that's what it could have been, but I'll fix it next time. But nevertheless, as black as this screen is how black is our society getting, just dark and darker. I just painted a picture. 2009, right? 2009 from the American Pediatric Association, how young girls are being sexually objectified through the music. Painted that. Told you about 2016, the title of an article, Sexualization of Popular Music, right? And that music is essentially targeted to young kids, 66%. That was 2016. And now I also brought up today by USA Today, that was last year, February 2023 by Gary Hamilton. Why is R&B music becoming more sexually explicit than ever? Then he said, it's complicated. Okay. All right. So now it's complicated. That's just justification for foolishness. That made no sense. I don't need to read the article. I don't need to read the article. We're still calling, the Bible talks about a generation that calls wrong right and right wrong, right? So last time I checked is that God calls right right. what he calls right, we should call right. Bible says in Philippians, whatsoever is true, whatsoever is good report, um, think on those things. And also psychology it's proven what you put in your in gate ear and put in your ear gate, right, is gonna come out. It's gonna come out, right? There's something called positive psychology, how you feel, how you act. It's all relative. It's all relative. So God wired us, He made us, He made us to listen to good things, good content. God made that. We did it. So when you see the sexualization of all these music lyrics, and I challenge you, I challenge the older folks to help the younger folks, and I challenge the younger folks. We got to give these younger children a chance. Back, it was like a couple years back, the FCC, I think it's a few years ago, received about 1,000 complaints about Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion with the album WAP, WAP, and you can look up the lyrics and all that contained. One of the most sexually explicit lyrics. This is not even soft porn. It's just pornography out in the streets. And like I already said to you, that mostly young kids are mostly listening to that. Now I don't blame the artists themselves. You can't, because it's the industry behind it, and it's the people buying it. The people are going to continue buying, then there's going to be a demand for it. If it's not just these people, these artists, there's going to be other artists. But if we just sit back and see, it is a concerted effort on the youth. It's like a dark cloud, like my black screen here, like a dark cloud hovering over the young children. And what are they raining on? Oh, whole bunch of perversion, whole bunch of, you can see it all over. You don't even get a chance. Besides the videos, which are very violent, very sexually explicit, you got explicit TV, you got explicit, then you got the music. And have you seen the videos? Oh my goodness, I can't. I try to watch some of the videos just for content, coming here to Morality Moves so I can study. It is nasty. I said I can't. Who can watch the people? I'm like, do Christians know how nasty this is? Check out any of the videos. I mean, I grew up, I had a chance. Yeah, I had a few foolish people, right, that you knew not to listen to or watch, but now it is painted with all the foolishnesses. And you hear this and you see this, like my black screen, nothing, absolutely nothing. Then you wonder why these poor kids are growing up the way they are. You wonder why. Check out the videos. You got to call. There's no way that this video can that WAP W period A period P period can come out and silent, and they're targeting the young African American women and young men, and all the young kids are young kids, white, black, Hispanic, doesn't matter. It's towards the youth, trying to infiltrate their minds, and you hear nothing. That's why you're having problems with relationship and all this other junk and all these, that it snowballs, STDs and all that other kind of foolishness. And you hear absolutely nothing about it. And I just see that as an assault on our kids, And then you have other artists coming out. And if adults and if youth ministers would sit and look, I like all the youth ministers to call me because and I'll give my information out in the next broadcast, the email address, because I want us to start meeting to talking about how we can push back this how Christians, especially the youth ministers, to push this back and have a campaign against it. You had the Me Too movement. You got you have so many movements, which is good. That's awesome. You have the right to go out and say, I do not like this. That is still America, and thank God for it. That's really what the Lord has given us. The Lord has given us our own will, not just America. God has put that in our heart is your own will to choose. That's from the very beginning. Adam and Eve, God didn't make us robots. You choose which one. Choose the stage which you'll serve, right? Which one you're going to choose. So this is one of the things. This is the things that we got to clean up before we go, because our silence from us older folks is co-signing with this foolishness. That's essentially what it's saying. When you don't hear marches, when you see this WAP, and again, I'm not against against the ladies who rap. I just want them to rap something else because they have an amazing skill. And to be honest with you, if you talk with them behind closed doors, I bet they don't want to do that. They don't want to do that. Megan Thee Stallion, she went to college. She's very articulate. It's just the industry and it's the labels, and it's just not even the labels, but it's the demand out there saying, yeah, let's continue with this junk. We got to change that demand. We don't want to demand this stuff no more. We need some cleanliness. We need to get the young girls dressing right, not these yoga pants, all that foolishness. We need them to honor themselves, who God has made them, and we're going to ask for a change of that. Is it hard? Sure, but isn't it worth fighting for? What's the alternative? I would challenge anybody. Look at these lyrics, look at these videos. You're going to have your mouth dropped. You're going to drop your mouth. You're going to be like, is this what they're seeing? No wonder my kids getting D's and F's in school, because they can't concentrate on all this foolishness. They can't concentrate on none of this stuff. But that's why I say that, because you have to do something against that. And next time when you actually will see me, I'm going to have my the email address so youth ministers can contact me. I will also be reaching out to you, because my goal is to have meetings and see how we can push back this foolishness and stand up and say respectfully, not with our kids, not with our kids. Our young kids, all of our kids are beautiful queens and young kings. They're not just anything. That's what the devil wants to do. Destroy their mind. And when you get your mind, you get your will. And you get a whole bunch of foolishness coming with it and making bad choices. And if we can we can just have a standard against that. It's not just me saying that. Sheila Johnson, BET founder, Miss Sheila Johnson, billionaire herself, just a remarkable woman who was right up there with her husband. They co-founded BET. You know what she said? She said, this was her own words. This was the co-founder of BET, Sheila Johnson. She goes, I was aghast when I saw these videos of the sexually explicit videos. Now, this is Sheila Johnson. Too bad you can't see my expression on my face, because I was just aghast when I heard her say this. She goes, Sheila Johnson said, when we started seeing the videos that were given for the videos, that was back in the day, a sexually explicit started out. Her mouth was dropped. She goes, I can't believe this. She was not happy seeing those videos. But I think that's how, they paid the bills, and they couldn't get it onto the white MTV shows at that time. We're talking, decades back. So they would give it to BET, and they would play them. And I guess they would pay for the play, for playing that. She said, I was aghast to see that. These very sexually explicit videos. Now, that was at that time, 20, 30 years ago, right? So much so that she decided to do Teen Summit. I don't know if people remember that, Teen Summit. She was the one who created Teen Summit, because she wanted to give the women a chance, and the young people a chance to combat this negative images that her own network was portraying. I did not know that. She said, I created Teen Summit to combat all these negative images that they were portraying. And I'm not sure the dichotomy what happened there, why she couldn't stop that. And that's not to say, I just wanted to say how she said, I had to stop that. I wanted to have a different voice about that. That was Sheila Johnson. That was so when I sit here, and there has been the bell ringing She started ringing that bell. And they started it too with the videos and MTV, and I ain't even talking about MTV. So she said, this is just wrong. So 10, 20 years down the road, something like that, or 15 years down the road, we are still at the same crossroads. And if you look at, and why you might say, Jacqueline, well, why the music lyrics, Jacqueline? Why the videos? This is the one thing I'm going to concentrate on. There's so many things out there, but this is the one thing I'm concentrating on. When you hear the new artist coming, this one new artist, I'm not going to say her name, but she's a new one coming, very popular. And if you see, it's the same setup, very looking extremely inappropriate. And I don't blame these young artists. I can't. They can't blame these young artists. It's the industry. It's the demand behind it, and sometimes I feel they just caught up in it. And that's where the public has to push back and ask for something much different, equivalent to the Me Too movement. But there's one artist that one of her lyrics, says my coochie is pink and my booty hole is brown. That's a real lyric. That's a real music lyric. That's a real music lyric. And I might as well say the artist because she got it out there. Sexy Red. That's the artist now. That's what all the kids are listening to. I think she was on. Yeah, she was on the BET Awards. Yeah, I think she was on there. Yeah, she was. That's what I'm saying. And now that's just, it's embarrassing to say all that, but this is all the darkness. This is what's going on. And again, I don't, uh, nothing negative towards these individual artists, because it's not that. It's never what's portrayed. It's always behind the scenes. And what are we saying as Christians? What are we saying? Let the world be the world. But this is just a picture of what all that they're all many majority are saying now. This is where we turn to. So I have to talk about the music lyrics. I have to talk about that. We have to push back and say, oh no, 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 not on our watch. Not on our watch. This ain't music. This is perversion on paper, perversion in the videos. And I challenge you. You really can't watch it though. You can't watch the videos that enough to know the first screen, enough to know that this is nasty and perverse. Most of them. Women gonna be dropping and they're showing their butt right up in the camera. I have never seen such foolishness with short shorts on and call that dancing. That's working. And you don't hear nothing about nothing. And that is uncalled for. That is disrespectful. So when we see the sexualization of music and we see the FCC fined, and then we see on the couple years back on the Super Bowl, Jennifer Lopez and Shakira working a pole, all that foolishness, and then you don't see a concentrated effort of a pushback against that, shame on us. Shame on us. I don't care. Shame on us. Same thing with BET with the degradation and stuff, just to leave it on that, just to be, and nothing against the network. We're just saying we want something different. Shame on us. You know, a movement is long standing, not just upsetness for one day. It's a long-standing movement, a long-standing movement. Um, and so as I wrap up, you'll see me next time. I think it was a version of the video. Think that's what happened was the version. But I went through it though. Went through it. Never been on a black screen before. But those who even 2 or 3